This is Chapter 11, Exercise number 1. We're going to be looking at various allocations of our factory overhead in this chapter. This question starts out, single plant-wide factory overhead rate. SOSA, Band Instruments, Inc., makes the three musical instruments, trumpets, trombones, tubas, and trombones. Budgeted factory overhead is $139,460. Factory overhead is allocated to three products on the basis of direct labor hours. So we're going to use direct labor hours. The products have the following budgeted production volume and direct labor hours per unit. So we're going to have to figure out what the total direct labor hours are. I can multiply the trumpets, 1900 units, times 8/10, and we can then see what our amount would be. So I'll take the 1900 times 0.8, and that equals 1520. Next, I can take the tubas. I'll multiply 700 times the 1.5. I'll have 1,050 hours. And for the trumpets, 1,100 hours times 1 is 1,100. So now I have my total for each instrument. I can add them all together to come up with a grand total. And that equals 3,670 direct labor hours. So to determine the single plant-wide, determine the single plant-wide factory overhead rate, and that's per direct labor hour. So my final calculation, I'm going to take the 139,460. That's my factory overhead. I'm going to take that number, I'm going to divide that by my total direct labor hours of 3,670. It looks like I get 38.05. I'm going to double check that calculation. Yep, that's what I get. So I'd have 3805. I transposed the number here. This number should be 139,460 divided by my total direct labor hours of 3,670, and that equals $38. So the correct answer then would be 38. In B, it says use the factory overhead rate in A, the $38, to determine the amount of total and per unit factory overhead allocated to each of the three products. So in each one of these cases, I would take for the total overhead, I'll take the $38 for the trumpets times 1520. So 1520 times 38 equals 57,760. Again, I multiplied the 1520 times the $38 per hour, and that's how I got that number. We can do the same thing for tubas. Tubas, we'll take the 1,050 times $38. That equals 39,900. And for the trombones, we will take 1,100 times 38. That looks like 41,800. So we have the total factory overhead. We can add all three of these numbers together, and that will equal 139,460. We can find the unit per cost, or the cost per unit, by taking the 57,760 divided by the number of units. So if I take the 57,760 and I'm going to divide it by the 1,900 units, I'll have an answer then of $30.40. You'd continue on doing that for each one of the units, where you would take the total cost for the tubas, 39,900, divide that by the number of tubas, 700, and you'd have your result. Trombones, same.